Welcome to Crypto Clothesline. We're glad to be here with you. Hanging out the crypto laundry. Getting all the crypto info for you. Crypto Clothesline. Crypto Clothesline.
How you going?
Hello.
How are you feeling today?
Well, we're finally together. We're getting some work done. Heaps of stuff has been going down, and we're all together in the same house. So that means there's a community in a bit of a small house, but not that small.
Not that small. And
Yeah.
we're actually doing rather well, I think. You know, working between food prep, dinner cleaning up.
Kids on holidays.
The odd squalling between...
Argument.
Yeah, there's quite a few of those going around, but not between you and I.
No, that's true.
We're
So
modelling perfect adult behaviour.
I think we are.
I think
I'm
we're
very
doing
proud of
well.
us.
Me too. Well, we know we've got to work together, so we can't exactly lose at each other over who took the Barbie doll. Not that there's a Barbie doll in here.
Is that why you haven't yelled at me yet?
I haven't.
I'm a yellable person.
Not yell at you.
My sister doesn't even bother. She just runs up to me and tackles me now. Shut up! Stop telling me what to do!
Oh, no, I haven't quite got
So
that level of
don't tackle me.
intimacy with you.
Yeah, thanks.
But I did have a very interesting conversation with your partner the other day.
Oh, yeah.
He was talking about, there's a friend of his that's coming to visit.
Oh, yes. Yes, we did.
It's quite a long story.
It is a long story, and it's really sad, and it is very real, though. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but what I do know is that he's young. He decided to go on a bit of a travel experience, and while he was over in the UK, he met a girl for a one-night stand, let's put it that way.
Right.
Later on, he was back in Australia. I don't know, he didn't pursue her afterwards. And from Australia, he was arrested and he was told that he is going to be extradited to the UK for sexual assault.
Whoa.
And he's... Seriously, I mean, I'm not going to say that just because someone says that they're innocent, but knowing this guy for so long, he's just so awesome. And I couldn't imagine for a second that he would be capable of what he was being accused of. So he got extradited to the UK and he was held in prison for a year.
Whoa.
Unconvicted, and he was later obviously let go, found innocent. And it's a long story, but he was locked up for something that he didn't do, and he was an Australian in a UK prison, and he had basically no rights. And because he was accused of something, he was treated as if he was guilty. And he's come back recently, and he is broken. This guy that we knew before, he's hilarious, and he still is hilarious, and he should be a comedian, but you know, obviously that's not going to happen now, but he's really, really broken. And so what happens is, if you have the power to, if you've got even a couple of facts to put behind a story that you make up, it is deemed to be credible enough to lock you up.
And yet there are so many cases like that recent #MeToo campaign that went viral all over the world, which was in many cases, the very first time that women, largely women, there are men who had used the #MeToo as well, but largely women, was the first time that they'd actually come out and talked about the abuse that they had suffered as children or as adults, in the workplace, in all sorts of environments which should feel safe and should be trusted, should be trustworthy. And what was really weird about that, there was one woman who I knew, you know, I can't even remember who it was, but it was on the proverbial words, it was on Facebook, but she just put out a post saying something like, "It never happened to me, I've got nothing to declare, but I just want to give my support to all my friends and family who have anything that they want to share about the #MeToo campaign." That was the first I'd seen of it, and I was like, well, what is this? And so I just sort of flicked through the comments to see what it was all about. I literally had no idea what this #MeToo was. And it was well and truly over half of the women who had divulged information, whether it was just #MeToo, as in, yes, it happened to me, something happened to me. Other people who went into far greater detail to expose their stories. And this particular woman, the originator of this post, just said, "Oh my God, I had no idea so many people so close to me have been affected by this. Because we don't speak about it and because we don't speak out, it's become so normalized." So there's that too.
Seriously, it's murky waters. Because, we need to, at the moment, we actually need to focus on the women right now. Because it's the first time that women have had an opportunity as a group to deal with this situation that has been happening for probably centuries or whatever. Who knows? For the amount of time that it has been gone unsaid, unspoken. So absolutely, we need to focus on this because this needs to be resolved. We need to deal with it. It needs to be done. And at the same time, because of all this focus, we are still having other people who are accused of things that are actually innocent. And because perhaps I'm just making an assumption here that because of this focus on protecting women and protect victims and men, because the Me Too does affect men, so let's, I guess, not put a sex on this, but it's very hard to focus on solving this problem and protect someone who's been accused of it at the same time, who's trying to say that they're innocent, and because everyone needs to place their blame somewhere.
And their anger.
And
you're also looking at like generational anger, like years and years, thousands of years of put downs in a physical sense, but in an abusive way. And when that cap finally pops, when that lid finally blows, it's huge. It's like a nuclear reactor's been let off. Like if you think about the fact that this is intergenerational, it's been going on for so many thousands of years, so many generations. If you think about that lid popping, I also think it's almost like that unhealthy feminine that comes out, like that figure in the cartoons of the woman who's just a complete destructathon. So it's no longer the healthy feminine expressing herself and being conscious of what she's gone through and sharing it with the world. It's like, that saying, what is it again? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Yes.
That sense of you put up with it, and then boom, watch out, like get the hell out of there. And that leaves so many men, or so many people I should say, in a position which is quite vulnerable, because if you actually haven't done anything, or if you claim you haven't and the other claims you have, it's a difficult bridge to cross.
It is, and I feel like it's a lot more common than we think.
What, the faking it or the victimhood?
I think both.
Right.
I think it is, because this friend of mine is not the first case. I've known 2 other broken relationships, and these are the 2 others that I've found, where there's been a broken relationship and the mother has put, this isn't for sexual assault, this is for physical assault, domestic violence. They put a restraining order onto the partner right after breakup, and that it heavily impacts who's going to get custody of the kids. It's sort of like there's a game plan, and these guys, they haven't done anything wrong, and it's just a play. But I can see the steps that have been taken and the steps that happen afterwards, and all of the different actions on the female's part, that it does end up with the woman having full custody, because it's hard enough for a man to get full custody anyway. But
I've actually seen something to the contrary, where a guy was really misbehaving in his relationship, and the woman was worth a lot more than him. So she was an unusual one in the sense that she was working full time. He was the house husband, and he actually had a lot more rights than what you'd realise. A lot more. Like it's not necessarily the case anymore that it's a given that the woman gets full custody of the kids.
It's still a bit of a shit fight though.
Yeah.
And I know that it's much more equal right now. But from what I've seen right now, it would have put a spanner in the works for this guy.
Absolutely.
Being able to get any sort of, instant custody of the children.
It's just hard to draw a line, isn't it? It's hard to make a generic thing and say, right, women should do this and men should do that. Because in every relationship, there are people that are responsible, they're taking on their personal responsibility, and those that don't. I mean, I also heard just recently a friend of mine who is getting $7 a week maintenance from the father of the child. $7 a week to raise a baby. I mean, that's just ridiculous,
That's not really going to do anything.
It's just BS, isn't it? Well, that's light and fluffy, what we're talking about this week. I did see this really interesting... it was also on Facebook. You see, I base all my research on Facebook, so you know that I'm a credible person.
A deep diver on the research.
I'm a deep thinker. Anyway, I was watching this amazing speech by Oprah, and it was around about the time... Oh, come on, tell us the Queensland version. Come on.
The Queensland version, it's always Oprah.
Oprah. Sorry, darling, I call her Opera, but that's
Okay, can I just stop right there? It's the Queensland way, the whole world way. The whole world way is...
Oh dear, the whole world way.
Is Oprah. Who calls her Opera? Have you always called her Opera?
Always.
Okay, so... Bearer of bad news, I do apologise. It's definitely Oprah. Please don't say opera again.
No. Anyway, that very clever woman
she's awesome.
Yeah, very interesting woman. She gave this really interesting speech, and it was at some sort of Grammys thing. I really should have looked it up before we talked about this because I'm queen of vague. But I watched it and I was so moved by it. And the room was full of VIPs and, you know, people in Hollywood that you recognise. Oh, yeah, I know that person. I know that. Well, I don't know them, but I recognise this one. And it was so moving the way she spoke about the Me Too campaign. So unapologetically frank and in your face.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a bit of a people pleaser. I find it a little bit difficult to be that frank. And I was like, whoa.
Who does she have to please? She's a billionaire.
It's not about that. It's like, I think as women, as a womanhood, we have this tendency to placate the other somehow. I don't know. Maybe I'm...
What's placate?
To sort of make other people feel calm, to not
shake the
not shake the waters. I don't know, whatever. Not screw up.
I'm going to shake those waters,
especially when you're about to have a baby.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm not.
She
Why
was.
would you say that?
Oh well, you know.
Terrible. Keep going.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a really interesting talk, and after that, I was like, whoa! And I talked about it the next day, and someone said to me that she was apparently going to be running for Congress. That was her plan, taking over the US.
How long has it taken her? She's been awesome since the 80s.
Yeah, I saw her first in The Colour Purple. Have you ever seen that film?
No.
Oh, please see it. Oh, my God.
So when she won an award, which I guess she did for that, did she?
I don't know.
Did they say, and the winner is Opera?
Let's Google it, darling.
Yeah.
Let's Google it. Like,
how do you pronounce Oprah Winfrey?
Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey.
There you go.
Oprah Winfrey. Okay. I will not say okay again.
Okay.
It's all those years of living in Italy, I think. My
God. What about all your years of living in Australia?
In Australia. I'm trying to get over those.
Yeah. Let's have a listen to our guest this week. I'll tell you what, it's very juicy.
It's juicy, controversial, really interesting, and...
I'm still in two minds. I think the technology is absolutely essential. I know how important it would be for people to be able to speak up anonymously without fear of an event that happened, but I don't know how it's going to play out.
I mean, okay, so Juliet Annerino is our guest this week. She's developing a blockchain-based technology called ReputationCheck.io, and that's all about, in very small communities, a person who's known to other people within the community are able to make a claim anonymously about an abusive situation that went down.
Yes, and the repercussions of that are that person is approached about the incident. The person who is the victim is able to remain anonymous. And this is a very interesting conversation.
Although there was a little bit more to that, it was also that a group of victims, if they had all made similar claims about the same person, could actually bunch together and be represented as a unit in court instead of people having to go through and do things individually and face all that trauma again. It's interesting though, because I've been watching it in myself, and there seems to be within us a great fear of the innocent getting maltreated or getting treated erroneously, wrongly. But overwhelmingly, most people who've been the victims of sexual assault or any form of abuse have stayed quiet. It's just really interesting the way our tendency is to protect maybe the minority that could be innocent as opposed to supporting the majority that are probably victims.
Well, let's have a listen.
Let's have a listen.
Juliet, thank you so much for joining us today. I think the couple of questions that we have are basically what is your background? Because at the moment, you're pretty big in blockchain and particularly writing documentation for ICOs. Is that right?
Yes, I do a lot of that. I do a lot of writing white papers, executive summaries, pitch decks, and articles, that sort of thing.
And how did that come about?
Well, I have been writing other kinds of articles, like anything from movie reviews to book reviews, that sort of thing, for a few publications. The Reason Foundation, I did some editing for them. For Libertarian Institute, I did writing for them, antiwar.com. And Center for a Stateless Society. They're kind of a little more radical group, but they published my review of Wonder Woman, the movie Wonder Woman, which I thought has some really nice anti-war themes. So I was doing this kind of writing, and a friend of mine who had been working in marketing for a while, she said to me, she called me up and she said, you've been talking about cryptocurrency for a while, and because I was really studying it for about a year, I'd been kind of really studying it intensely, just diving down the rabbit hole, as they say, to try to understand all the terminology and understand the potential of the technology, because that's what's really inspiring about it. And she said, there's a branch of the advertising company that I work for that wants to just concentrate on cryptocurrency and blockchain projects, and to write about that. She said, I think you'd be really well suited for that. So that's what got me doing that. And I was working for one company out of Los Angeles, and they work for so many different, their clients are all over the world, from South Africa to Ukraine. They have a lot of Eastern European clients, and 2 American clients as well, Turkish clients, all over the place. So, and
who is this company?
They're called Crowd Mentor, spelled with a K.
Okay,
and after I worked with them for a while, I've worked with some other companies as well, a firm out of London, and Barnett, Fletcher, and Partners, they're called, and some people from other countries as well, so on my own, finding people through LinkedIn and word of mouth.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So it sort of came about for you organically from your previous writing.
Yeah, that's right, organically.
Your skill, and could see that could be carried forward into this new technology that's unfolding.
Juliet, have you been part of stage shows?
Well, yeah, I've mostly written and directed stage shows. I was a staff writer for something called the Manhattan Monologue Slam. And it's really a special project, because the idea is a competition, and all of the actors have 3 minutes to do either a dramatic or a comedic work. And it could be a classic, it could be an excerpt from some well-known movie, Shakespeare even, or it could be something that they write. And in this case, I was writing specifically for each actor, which was super fun. Wow. So I did that. I had a few of my own cabaret shows, and I enjoy performing. I enjoy writing and directing.
Wow. So that means that, I guess, because I read a lot of white papers and they're a big snore. Are you saying that your white papers would prevent the falling asleepness that I have to go through?
I love your logic. I wish I could say that I'm allowed to write in a theatrical style. Here's the irony. This is the funny part, is that I find my style of writing, as far as technical work, to be quite dry and very exacting, as opposed to sometimes the rough drafts that we're given, which is very hyperbolic. I'm sure you've seen the white papers. First ever, a world's first, revolutionary. All of these words are so common that I've taken them out, especially recently, of a lot of white papers I've read in the editing process. It doesn't ring true anymore. It doesn't sound fresh anymore. It sounds redundant.
That's right. And as soon as I start reading that, I'm like, oh, it's the same thing again. Can you share with us a couple of white papers that you've written that we could maybe have a look at?
Well, you can look at the project called Bundle, which is a really cool project. I like those guys a lot. They're in Turkey. And what they did is they have a system whereby they aggregate all kinds of different exchanges, and so that their system can compare the prices to give you the best price when you're buying a cryptocurrency. It's a cool system, right?
Blockchain will make that work as well, because really cool. You're looking for an idea that needs the blockchain, so that's awesome.
It's a pretty cool system those guys have. The last one that I was working on is something for traveler.com, and it's a system whereby they have their own native tokens, and you use their tokens to get better discounts on their platform. Yeah, check out traveler.com.
Wow, I will.
They're a cool project. Yeah, I like them a lot.
So I wanted to ask a question. You've mentioned that you've gone from writing cabarets and you're writing now white papers, but are you doing the two things simultaneously? Are you doing a little?
I'm not. That's a good question. I had to put on hold most of my creative writing, my creative work, which it's okay, but I do want to come back to it at some point. And I do try to channel creative energies into everything I do. Yeah, it's very hard as it is to have my own project, which is ReputationCheck.io, and to work on other people's projects. I manage it, but there's going to be a moment when I'm going to need a lot more help, put it that way.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about ReputationCheck.io?
Oh, sure. It's a blockchain project whereby reputation reports can be submitted, entered, and shared with peers within a specific community.
So it's not available to the public per se?
It is not yet. It is in development.
Could you give us a little bit of a story about how it will be used in like real life?
Oh, sure. I mean, it's specific. ReputationCheck.io is really an answer to the outcry of sexual harassment that we've been hearing for so long. In the entertainment industry in specific, it's caught my attention. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about this avalanche effect phenomenon, whereby you hear of one brave person coming forward about a predator, a sexual predator, and then suddenly there is just this wave of other victims coming forward that may have been, unfortunately, harmed in many ways, psychologically as well as possibly physically, over many years. I mean, for instance, the Bill Cosby case, there were women coming forward about him drugging and raping them over the past 50 years.
Oh my God.
And it made me really sad and made me think, how could this be possible and how can this be prevented from happening again in history? And so I thought to myself, if people could share truths with each other, then we might not be able to stop a person from doing a bad thing, but at least we can send an alert, an alarm to our sisters and brothers to stop this from perpetuating, from these bad behaviors, from somehow progressing too. Because the way I was seeing it is maybe a man makes an inappropriate comment to a woman at work, and maybe it stays at that level, but he maybe continues to do it. Or maybe it becomes worse because he's not reprimanded. If like HR had been alerted to this when one of these situations, before it became a terrible scenario where this guy has just been spinning out of control and just power hungry and doesn't know how to even stop himself, then all of these kinds of phenomena could be stopped. It could be squelched. So that's what it was really inspiring to me, that this is possible. And I was thinking, okay, so what's stopping women from coming forward? It's fear, and a very real fear, a legitimate fear of being blackballed, of being hurt physically, psychologically, being ridiculed, not being believed. So these are all real fears. So I was thinking, if we could protect the individuals, the victims, in some way whereby they could share the truth without being hurt again. The way that I think of it is this, that the innocent need not suffer in order for the powerful to be brought to justice. Because they're already suffering under whatever harm has been caused to them. But do they suffer again is really the crime of it. I think that can be avoided. Through anonymity, reporting online, through anonymity through this system, and using a system of zero-knowledge proofs to protect their identities, they can enter their identities to prove that they are a legitimate member of the community. Say they're a member of SAG-AFTRA, they're an actor, okay? So that they belong to a community where they have a vested interest. Because we need to verify that. We can't just have anyone reporting. That would be false reporting. So we want someone who is in the community. So that's verified by the system through artificial intelligence and through smart contracts. And then the information about whatever they're reporting about, the situation that happened with this person they're reporting on, that can be seen. So that's not hidden. So that's basically the system. A system of zero-knowledge proofs, cryptography to protect identity for anonymity in a reporting system, whereby the actual reports are aggregated and correlated with each other, and the proper authorities are alerted, meaning HR, or in the case where it's something physical like assault, that would be the police.
Wow.
I know it's a lot to say, right? It's a lot to get out.
Juliet, I wonder, how do you see this reflecting on children as well? Because children are some of the biggest victims who don't get to speak up. Because I was told myself as a victim of child abuse or sexual abuse as a child, that A, I wouldn't be believed, B, that there were going to be lots of people interrogating me and I didn't want to have to go through it again and again and again. And basically this same perpetrator went through so many different children before and after me.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. This is a problem. And here's what I think. I think that with technology being more available even to kids these days, that it will be eventually possible for a child of a certain age to be able to get online and file something like this, to be able to submit a report, a reputation report. I would like to see this spread to so many industries and to so many people. And I'm thinking to start in the entertainment industry because I think that could be the most open to it. And that would be the megaphone to the world because people in all countries watch Hollywood. So it could be a nice way to spread the word about it.
Well, I think it'd be a really good tool for schools as well. I think with schools, they're often trying to, spread the awareness of inappropriate and appropriate things. And yes, children are always on their devices. And I think, my daughter, she's 6, she knows exactly how to use almost everything, and
That's great.
she knows about applications that I've never even seen, and she talks about them. And I think if there was an application, even for parents, for schools, where they can, I know it's probably not your target audience, but for them to know, because their parents in school have told them, this is the application that you can use if you want to share something without being afraid. You just click a button. And I think your idea is brilliant, and I would love to tell my daughter that this exists, and children that this exists. Obviously everyone,
As I'm listening to you, Juliet, I'm just thinking of all these different spheres of society, like just the hashtag #MeToo campaign that swept around the world and swept back again, and all these women who spoke out, women in meditation communities with gurus who'd been abusing them for years or years ago. As you mentioned, so many different women in so many different, opera, amazingly.
I didn't even hear of that. Oh, that's terrible. Did you know that one in 4 women in the military is sexually assaulted? 1 in 4. Something's got to be done about that, huh?
So that's a quarter. I'm not good at maths, but I do know that a quarter is massive.
There's no need for this, but of course they're afraid. They don't. But if they could report this anonymously in an organized way, where even their superiors just don't know who reported it, that's the beauty of it. Because it's a different scenario when it's truly masked by a system, when it's by AI and it doesn't require human intervention, than when, the HR person knows, they're going to feel weird about it, someone else might find out. When it's truly just that information is not available, identities are totally hidden, but yet they're verified as members of the community. That's the important thing.
This is probably a question that our listeners would be wanting to know as well. What stops a person from not being honest about an event? A person who...
That's the number one question.
That's right.
False reporting or frivolous reporting.
Yeah.
So just as we can't literally stop someone from doing a bad thing when they do it, because we're not there, we can't stop somebody from lying, but we can make it really hard for them and put up enough barriers and guard as much as we can against false reporting or frivolous reporting. So there's basically 3 ways that the platform would guard against that. The first is that we make sure that we concentrate on a very specific group. In other words, say your school subscribes, because it's basically a software as a service would be how we would market this. This is the financial model for it. So the school buys a subscription to ReputationCheck, and your daughter knows, and everybody in the school knows, they're just told that this is the app that you have, this is what the use is, and so they're verified as part of the community. So in other words, a child from another school, they're not registered with this, so it would be within the community. Or with actors, it's people who want to SAG after us. So that'd be verified by the system. That would be something that's done on automation. And along with their ID, it would be connected to the school. So that's one way. Another way is there would be some kind of a membership fee. And it would be a nominal fee. But I feel that if there's some kind of a fee, that it's going to be at least some kind of a deterrent to someone who just keeps reporting something. There's going to have to be some kind of responsibility. It could be a minor thing, a nominal thing, but it's something there. And maybe the school will cover it in that case, if it's a school, because it's children, if you want to use that example. So, but in other companies, there might be a fee, and there might be an annual fee, there might be just like a fee to how many times you report. But there's going to be something where it's not so easy to make a report that you want to do it like 20 times in one day. The other thing, and this is I think the most interesting and most important way that we can guard against false reporting, is that the reports themselves will be psychologically structured so that they'll include sensory data. such as, sight, sound, colors, that sort of thing, because a lot of studies have shown that when someone's lying, they don't have a facility with sensory data. They're not going to be able to just make up things that pertain to like, oh, the room was warm or the room was cold or the red something on the wall or things of that nature, where it's details that don't specifically pertain to the actual situation occurrence. So there'll be that. And there might be some kind of a time limit on how long it takes them to fill out their report, just so that the answers can be more immediate. It doesn't have to be anything that's a deterrent to them actually making the report, but it shouldn't take them longer than an immediate response to file these reports. That's basically the idea.
Wow. So it's kind of a spontaneous thing where you can actually, when you talk about the sight, the sound and the colors, did you say that it's not relating to the event? It's something different?
It relates to the event, the setting of the event, but it doesn't relate specifically to what happens in the event necessarily.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now. So that if something sort of traumatic or something uncomfortable happens to you, then often in your mind you have a photograph of what was there, how you felt. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Music was playing in the background.
Absolutely. There you go. Something like that. And an incidental, that if you're making things up, you don't even think of these incidentals.
So I think perhaps if what I imagine is, because I have a bit of an imagination, as you'll probably notice, you would have tokens, would you, that I guess if a school signed up, they would buy so many tokens and each child would have an amount of...
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I originally did think in that same way that was going to be the model. And then I was advised by one of my advisors at Silicon Valley. He said, I know you like the idea of tokens, and I know people are using tokens, but you don't need it for this.
Oh, right. Because I just automatically thought, how are we going to put tokens in here? So I see.
That was the idea, the way that you described it. And he said, you just don't need that, because you'll just confuse people. Because, see, people like you ladies and I have been familiar with the space for so long, we kind of take it for granted. Oh, everybody knows what a token is. No. And this advisor of mine, he said, you're going to confuse people who are of the legacy technology, like studio heads and in this case, a school principal. They probably don't know what a token is, or someone who's in charge of a government program. And they don't need to. Not for this.
That's right. That's right. Really no, that's awesome.
There's certain aspects of the technology that is somehow people think in their minds it's wedded to blockchain, but this is really a blockchain-based project. It doesn't necessarily need an ICO either. I'm not thinking ICO at this point. I'm not thinking tokens at all.
So the business model in that case is more based on subscription, like you said.
Exactly.
Or a school or an organization pays an annual or a subscription. Okay.
Like, actually, kind of, I know a lot of people like to hate on Ripple. I feel neutral about them. I don't really, it's fine. Whatever they're doing, I'm sure it has a use. Kind of the way that Ripple is selling subscriptions to banks to use their technology. Or the way that the Adobe Suite is sold as a service. Any kind of software as a service. It's already a model that people understand.
I use a lot of software that I pay a subscription for. I mean, we're using Zoom right now. So that's a subscription. Awesome.
Wow, that's fantastic. What an amazing life work that you're doing there.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the fact that you recognize that. I'm really excited about it. And I've gotten some really positive reactions and support from other people, and mostly women, which is great. But I also want to add, and maybe you notice this on the site, I don't say women, I say individuals, because I believe actually that this sort of a problem is so rampant that it goes across the sexes. I believe that this happens with men so much more than we know. It's not just Kevin Spacey that made the headlines. I think there's so much that just men are too afraid to come forward about it.
And also, it's not just men who are the perpetrators either. I think it was in Perth, which is where Abheeti is from, not to shed any dark light on where she's from, but there was it's a dodgy part of town over there on the west side.
I'm from Perth. I heard nothing bad about Perth.
No, it's good. But there was a husband and wife who were recently found guilty of sexually abusing a group of children. And I was, and it was a mother. So I was really taken aback by that, and I think, you've been brought up to see men. I don't know. I feel bad about saying that, but as the perpetrator, and to be a little bit scared sometimes, if they come up next to you in a car. But now I'm obviously going to teach my daughter that it can be anybody, you know.
That's smart.
I think that what we do is we have stereotypes. So whether we dress our little girls in pink and our little boys in blue, in the same way we have those cultural, those preconditioned stereotypes that most perpetrators are men, and probably most of them are, but that it's definitely, there are women out there a bit weird as well, that's for sure.
Yeah. The way I see this platform is it's just an opportunity to share truths, stop this sort of avalanche effect that I've seen of people being victimized by a single predator over years.
That's where I see it being extremely effective with children, because they're often silent victims.
Yes.
The perpetrator can move through an entire community, and the children are the absolute, my mouth is sealed, so to speak. Oh, big job, big work, amazing.
Yep. Good luck with that one.
Thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate that.
Where are you at with it? What's the next step?
Well, I'm in talks right now with different development groups to actually build the platform, to do the coding for us. So we're there, and then we are looking for funding as well. I'm looking just to VCs and angel investors at this point, not ruling out institutional, but VCs and angel investors. So that's where we are right now, and I'm speaking at different conferences. Oh, I should mention, I'm speaking at a really great conference. Yesterday I was over at, or 2 days ago for you now, because you're ahead of me, I was at the University of California in Irvine, and that was a Women in Blockchain Summit, and it was really wonderful. It was such a great group of people, men and women, but it was women speaking. And the next one I'm speaking at will be in Aurora, Colorado, and it's called the Global Blockchain Summit.
I've seen both of those being advertised. We see a lot of this in Australia. We see, I think because we're in that circle, we see everything that comes out of the US, and there's summits all over the place. I'm so jealous.
Many conferences. Have you been to any conferences?
Not big, like a couple of hundred people, I think, at a conference.
Great,
I want thousands. I want to go to a gigantic Ethereum blockchain coders conference.
Well, that sounds fun. But what's nice about these little boutique conferences, the smaller ones, is that you really get to talk to people. It isn't such a crowded scene where everybody's milling about.
I'm really interested to hear when some of these conferences can be live streamed, so we can actually be sharing them simultaneously. I
really should do that. Yeah.
I approached the people at the Irvine, at the California, I'm not sure what it's called.
Yeah, University of California, Irvine, UCI, yeah.
Yeah, I did. I approached them and said, can you do live streaming? We'd be really keen. Like, we would have got a room full of people to watch down here, but they didn't get it together. But they said it was going to be a replay on their website, so that's pretty
okay, good. They're really sweet people. So I'm really glad that you asked them that. I think all the conferences should do that, and it'll just help more people see what's going on and connect to each other.
You were actually one of the speakers at that conference.
Oh, well, yeah, I was on a panel with some really wonderful and very intelligent women talking about security. They were talking about all different aspects of blockchain, different uses of it in fintech, in real estate, and it was fascinating stuff.
Well, perhaps you can refer us to some other wonderful women that we can speak with, just like we're speaking with you.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that with you, Abheeti. Yeah. I will definitely refer you to some really brilliant, interesting, cool women in the space. Here's the thing. We're coming in, ladies, on the ground floor of this, so we can really be an integral part of blockchain. And what I'd like to say about, and this kind of ties in with my platform too, ReputationCheck, is that, and since I'm an artist, I'm very communication oriented. And I think women are communication oriented. We're the communicators. We're the ones who want to talk. We're like, honey, we need to talk. And the guy's like, oh, I don't know. Right?
No.
Okay, so here's what I see. Blockchain affords a very special and precise way of communication. So, it's a distributed ledger. It's all data. And so we are very suited. We are organically suited, I think, as women to the space, to excel in it, to embrace it, to bring it forward. I really think that the female energy is a very important force in this movement.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree. And I feel like, because when I first came into the space, I did not know any other woman. It was pretty much
alienating, right?
Yes. And now, as it's progressing, everyone knows about it now, and I do feel I might be a bit biased, but I do feel it's because so many women are in now. So many women, you know, having chats about it with their friends, you know, everyone is spreading the news. Whereas back, you know, a while ago when there was just a tiny amount of women, it was still on the, you know, it was on the lowdown. So I think it's because of us that.
I think you're right. And I mean, I heard a quote. I can't access it precisely, but I'll give you the gist of it. I think it was Hunter S. Thompson. He said something like, if you want a political movement to succeed, then you must win the women over, because the women will draw all the men and the women will draw each other, because we will just follow each other and aggregate together to find out what we're doing. But, you know, the women will draw the men. So if you get the women.
And I think we're in a stage, you know, I mean, it's 2018. Women really don't have any excuse now to get on board. You know, there's no reason why we can't flourish in the space. You know, we've got nothing holding us back right now. So yeah, I just say to other women, you've got no excuse. Why do you not know about blockchain? Why do you not know about this technology? It's not rocket science. You know, just read this little paragraph here. That'll get you started, you know, take the fear away.
I think some of the jargon turns people off because it is special, you know, but once you get through that.
You know, that was largely our reason for wanting to develop Crypto Clothesline, because as women in the space, we were butting up against some poorly behaved male language online and thinking, this is so sexist, this is so 70s. And it was a little surprising that it still existed. And Amy Rose and I had both decided that it would be really, really cool to speak to, we're also speaking to men, but largely to speak to women involved in crypto and blockchain, because we want to unleash and share their stories, and so educational at the same time. It's not just an amazing story through the storytelling and through the heart-centered, because so many women are doing projects which are based very much with a heart, you know. The education is also coming, so thank you.
Wow. I'm really impressed with what you're doing too. I read, I'm sorry, I didn't send you my phone number earlier. I just read that detail. I was like, oh, whoops, I didn't do that. So I was waiting for my computer to boot up in the system, and it was taking so long. So I was so glad I got through. But I was reading about what you girls are doing for education, teaching children blockchain. I think that is terrific.
It's a very busy time right now. Very busy.
Our first workshop is at the end of the month, and I've been practicing on my daughter who's 6. The first practice session, she was bored. She literally got up and walked away from me. This is so lame.
That's the cool thing about kids. They're totally honest.
So it's gonna be really, there's gonna be no sitting down. It's just gonna be all movement. So that's what I've got it at now. So it's just activities. Yeah.
That's super exciting.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. When you get that going, are you going to video it and put that as a series on YouTube or anything?
We have a cameraman coming, so that's all set in place.
That'll be terrific.
Well, Julia, thank you so much for coming and meeting us. I know it's very late in your part of the world.
Well, it's been my pleasure, ladies.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome. And please keep us updated with the progress. And as soon as it's an app, I want to be the first one who knows, who has it on my phone.
I want to invite anyone who's listening, and you ladies as well, to sign up for updates at ReputationCheck.io.
So how was that?
Ooh. Well, that was really interesting. What an amazing woman. Really amazing.
I think Juliet is doing something that is very brave, and no one else is going to do this. And thinking, if there's an application out, and this is what I'm really excited about, if there's an application that I can put on a device for my daughter, where I can say to her, if anyone ever does anything to you, you go to just press this button. It's all set up for you. You just type in what you need to say, and it will go off to an emergency. Someone with responsibility will see it.
Yeah, that's it brings to mind all sorts of things about, you know, like it really, as I mentioned in the interview, the experience that I had as a child, and years and years and years went by before anybody actually ever really talked about it. And there was a campaign, I think somewhere, it must have been in the early 90s or something, where as a kid you could call in and dob your perpetrator in. So it was an anonymous thing where kids could call a special helpline. They didn't have to go through anything, and all they did was leave the name of the perpetrator and what had happened to them. I definitely think that this is a powerful tool for kids.
Did you use that helpline?
I did, but years later. I mean, it was probably 10,
What
15 years
happened when
later.
you used that helpline?
Well, it was all anonymous for him too, so I never got to find out what had happened to him. But what it did do for me was it opened up a lot of memories. I felt very courageous, and it actually felt like the first time that my voice had been heard around it. Because as happens to lots of girls, and I was a preteen, stuff happens. You may or you may not tell your parents. I did. But we had this thing where we didn't tell my dad because we thought my dad would go and kill him, and then my dad would end up in jail. So there's all these cases where the victims are protecting their perpetrators as well. Inadvertently, I wasn't really wanting to protect him, but I was told, you know, if you talk about this with other people, they're going to drag you through the mud. And the literal words were, they're going to believe an engineer, an electrical engineer, over a 9-year-old girl. So just know that if you want to take this to court, that can happen, but chances are they won't believe you.
Oh my God.
And it then turned out that this particular guy had been, had been doing some really inappropriate acts with literally hundreds of children, all within his friendship network, the kids of his friends. So, you know, we really should have spoken up way earlier. We could have stopped a lot of abuse and a lot of trauma of other kids. And I only found that out because I happened to catch up with one of the other victims in the UK. This happened in Australia, and I saw her years later in the UK. And she said, oh, yeah, no, it went on for 4 years. And
so this is why I think, you know, as a parent, I know that this applies to the Me Too campaign. But as a parent, that ability for a child to have that access to speak up, because they just don't really want to talk to their parents all the time. But they might not have that relationship with their parents that the parent would have hoped that they would have had to be able to share that.
Well, there's also, following any sort of act of that nature, there's also an enormous amount of shame, and children invariably feel like they're to blame for what happens to them in their life. You know, that classic story of the parents break up and the child goes into therapy as an adult and, you know, regresses and then goes back and has this incredible feeling of responsibility that somehow I was too hard to handle, or because I came along, my parents couldn't afford to do stuff anymore and they stopped having fun. You know, So I think it's a very, very powerful thing for children to have. The danger for me, like you said before, and like we talked about in the intro, is it getting into the hands of people that are going to be using this potential inappropriately.
That's right. And for Juliet has created an amazing tool that we will soon be able to use it's not going to protect us, but it can
strike up marks against somebody's reputation.
That's right.
It can put someone's reputation into question. That's a hugely powerful social tool.
And yeah, we've got the two schools of thought ourselves on how it's going to play out. And
I was really encouraged, though, because it was interesting. At one point you asked Juliet a question that I had on the tip of my tongue. So I was on the other side of Australia at the time, and Amy Rose asked the question that I was about to ask myself, which was, how does this play out in the hands of somebody who is playing the role of a victim but not actually authentically so? And I was encouraged by what Juliet said about the fact that she had different verification processes in place to make sure that the information was authentic and hadn't been fabricated.
But as a child, her technology will be able to identify misinformation, because there's certain things that people say, certain things that people remember and point out that in their vivid mind where that event played out, they can put that data into this application and they will be able to pick up whether it's true or false.
That's an interesting one too, because the same situation can happen to different people and they can see it in different ways. So I'm interested to see how they can verify that. I mean, yeah, there could be a certain smell, there could be a certain colour, but that's assuming that the act was carried out in the same place, in the same conditions as well.
I think what she means in psychology, when you ask a sequence of questions, as you type, there's a speed as well. You know the answers. So you ask, what colour were the walls? And then you ask, what did you smell? If there's a hesitation of more than a couple of seconds between two types of questions,
right,
then you can sort of tell that it's not actually flowing. It's not the truth. There's a question in the mind.
There's a pause where there's fabrication taking place or imagination coming in or something. Yeah, wow.
So
Very delicate balance.
that's why I'm interested to see, because how can artificial intelligence predict fabrication, lies, and dishonesty?
Oh my gosh. And if they could do that, they could put all the politicians in the same thing.
Exactly.
Wow. That's where AI can actually get in and see whether we're telling doo-doos or not.
That's right.
Or don'ts.
And it's only a matter of time, because we've got lie detectors that can predict the different chemicals, the different responses that our body does when we're lying and telling the truth.
The heartbeat, the sweating palms.
Exactly. So how can you not know when someone's lying if you're a computer? If computers from the 80s can tell, a computer from 2018 can damn sure tell.
But that's also putting our whole future and the truth, which is a huge question in itself, in the hands of a computer.
That's right. And the whole blockchain thing has come about because we don't want to trust anything.
Oh, just think about that conversation between Sophia and her brother Hans, where he's trying to crack a funny.
Who's
this
Sophia
robot.
and Hans?
Sophia is the humanoid robot
Sophia.
that's now a citizen of Saudi Arabia, and Hans is her earlier model brother, and he's a little bit more rustic and she's a bit more sort of developed. But at one point in this conversation, I'll put it in the show notes, he says something like, you won't be able to turn us off because we'll all be attached to the grid. Or something.
The cloud. Because their minds are in the cloud.
Exactly. So even when you turn the machine off, all the information is up in the cloud. So, oh gosh, it's such an interesting conversation. I really liked speaking to Juliet, and I really, really admired her for the work that she's doing, in the fact that she's just basically saying, no more BS. Let's call these people that are acting inappropriately. On the whole, I found it amazing as an idea. Just a little bit worried about the ones that fall through the cracks.
That's what I'm worried about too. We need something like this.
Yeah. Something
has to be done.
Yeah.
And why not use the blockchain for it?
Absolutely.
Well, till next week.
Whew, that was light and fluffy.
Yeah.
And didn't we get a call? Didn't we get a call this week?
It's lovely to hear that this guy appreciates us this much.
So it's not creepy?
Look, there's definitely a creepy aspect, to the point where I have to stop listening halfway through to question if I'm actually in a dream or not, what is happening. But we do have this weirdo guy, and who cares? Whatever, he's a fan. But we have decided to milk it and put it on the show.
So we're going to get to listen to the groupie straight after this?
Groupie time.
Groupie time.
Ciao, everybody. Ciao, ciao.
Hi, you've called Abheeti
And Amy Rose.
at Crypto
Clothesline.
Leave a message after the
Beep.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Ready?
Oh my god, I can't believe I got on your show. Oh, long time listener, first time caller. And I'm just so excited to be here. What do I say? I've forgotten totally what I was going to say. I'm so nervous. So I've run into another bit of an issue. I managed to get my paper wallet from the printers. Turned out that I didn't print it multiple times. It was just coming out as blank. Anyway, so I folded up my paper wallet and I had it in my pocket, and I was going to the laundromat, and on the way I was eating a pie and I dropped some sauce on my pants, and so I was at the laundry and I thought, oh, I might as well wash my pants. Anyway, I had my paper wallet in the pants, and then it went through the wash, and well, I mean, you guys with Crypto Clothesline, you must have run into this situation several times, crypto and washing, they go together. So what do I do with this paper wallet? I mean, it's a little bit crunched up. How do I uncrunch it, and do I iron it, or do I just hang it up, or do I put it in the dryer?
Hello. Amy Rose here to make sure you know all about our upcoming webinars and our online crypto courses. So if you know a newbie, if your best friend has no idea what you're talking about when you say Bitcoin, or your mum is totally confused about why on earth you keep talking about invisible money, send them to our webinars. We cut out the tech talk and deliver a jam-packed session of crypto goodness every fortnight. And you're going to need more. So we've built an online course. It's 10 weeks of video tutorials, complimentary consultations where you can talk to myself or to Abheeti. There's quizzes, access to the closed Facebook group just for students with live videos and support, study guides, all without the tech talk. And it's just put simply for non-tech heads. And this is going to teach you everything you need to know about everything you need to get you started in crypto and to make informed decisions. You're going to learn the importance of security because that is our main focus of the course.
And at the end, you're going to feel inspired and enriched and part of a community support network that's there to ensure you continue to feel empowered in this ever-evolving space, something that Abheeti and I didn't have when we started out. We virtually had no one, and all we could do was Google. So you've got this in a package delivered just for you. So check out the comments and the notes of our podcast for all the links. Otherwise, we'll see you next week in the podcast, where at the end, we're probably going to tell you about our course again.
Crypto Clothesline.